Welcome in to the Strike Zone. I am Joe Hunk, joining you tonight from First Horizon Park, as I do every single week. And I appreciate you all hopping in. Make sure that you follow me on Twitter at Joe Hunk, at Heck 3HL, as well as at 1045. That's all of our Twitter handles. You can also hop in and start getting those comments in, as we're going to go to our Twitter conversation at some point in time here in just a little bit. Now, again, at First Horizon Park, we've got parties going on all throughout the stadium, and it was crazy that if you listen to 3HL earlier today, and in fact around that 4 and 5 o'clock hour, we talked about how it was pouring down rain, and I mean pouring down rain at the studio. This baseball stadium is all of a mile and a half away from the 3HL studio. It has not rained here one bit at all. So you have a baseball game going on tonight. In fact, the game just got started a few seconds ago. It's the reason why we were getting going just a little bit later than normal. The main reason is because the national anthem was being sung, and so we didn't want to talk over that or anything like that. We wanted to make sure that we pay our respects to everybody by waiting for the national anthem to wrap up. Now, what's happening here at First Horizon Park? Well, Nashville Sounds still in first place. 44-29 coming into tonight. They won last night 8-5, and they're taking on the Indianapolis Indians, which are 7.5 games back of your Nashville Sounds. Now, they always like to look at what teams are bringing into the city, because of, you're talking about players that have already been called up to the major leagues. They've already been called up and sent back down to the major leagues. Maybe they've gotten called up from AA and they're getting ready to be called up to the major leagues. And in fact, you've got a few of those. Mike Burrows, who's the starting pitcher for the Indians, he was actually called up from AA just a couple of weeks ago, so he is very fresh on the team. But then you look at somebody like Travis Swaggerty, who plays the outfield. He's the number 12 prospect for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he's actually just got brought back down. In fact, he spent about a week with the team earlier this month. In fact, he was in the starting lineup for majority of the games when the Braves were playing the Pittsburgh Pirates. So you also have a Jawan Bay, who is batting .316 this year. He's the number 15 prospect for the Pirates, but what he's really good at, and you kind of saw it a little bit last night towards the end of the ball game, is his speed. 19 stolen bases right now for the Indians, and he's having a great one. Then you have somebody like a Mason Martin, who is number 21, number 22 prospect, depending on who you're looking at for your prospect rankings. He's not batting very well. He's batting a little over 200, but he's already got 12 home runs this year. So that's what the Indians have brought into town. Now, the team is going to have, obviously, a 6-game series like they do every single week, and they are going to be going all the way through Sunday. So you have tonight, which is Throwback Thursday. That means the Sounds are rocking those 1978 uniforms that are just absolutely gorgeous, which, if you don't know, 1978 was the first season of the Nashville Sounds. So that's happening tonight. Tomorrow night, you've got fireworks going on throughout downtown. So if you want to come to a Nashville Sounds game and you want to see the fireworks, that's what you want to do. Also, coming up on Saturday is going to be the adjustable straw front cap giveaway. Cap's legit. It's straw right here in the front, kind of where the white is on my hat right now. And then you have red, and it's kind of like a trucker hat, but with straw, just in case. It looks really awesome. You can go to the Sounds Twitter feed at Nashville Sounds, and you can look at the pictures that they've kind of thrown up of that hat. And like, if you don't know about the way minor league baseball works, it's almost a guarantee in minor league baseball that you're either going to be playing on July 3rd or you're going to be playing on July 4th, so that you can get that home crowd and going in for the 4th of July weekend. The Sounds, they're going to be playing here at home on July 3rd, meaning that is when their Independence Day fireworks are going to be going off. It's going to be a Sunday night game, so you can go and you can enjoy that here at First Horizon Park. So what have the Sounds kind of been up to over the past 7 days or so like that? Well, first off, they did beat Gwinnett 4-2 in the series, but the best part about it was Ethan Small was named the International Pitcher of the Week for the 7 innings that he pitched against Gwinnett earlier this week. In fact, his next outing is going to be tomorrow night, Friday night. So what is there to talk about tonight? Now, we're not going to start with any interviews. We're not going to do any of that tonight. Tonight is going to be purely for you. And a lot of the things that are happening Major League Baseball wise and minor league baseball wise, because there's two major stories, one of which you know a lot about. That's the Freddie Freeman story, his agent, and what the Dodgers and Braves may or may not have told him. We'll hear a lot about that and get those comments in as we go along. I see a lot of us starting to hop in right there. And so we have that going on. The other one you may not know about as much, but it could have a major ripple down effect when it comes to the city of Nashville, and I'll tell you about that later on. We already do have some comments in the chat that you can get in on. Make sure no matter where you're watching on Zone TV, whether it is YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Twitch, you can always get those comments in, and it comes directly to us right here at First Horizon Park. Now, Michael goes, will we get another round of Hunk versus the PA? So far, was also kind of another reason why I waited just a little bit. You notice PA announcer isn't as loud tonight, okay? It may also be because I've muted some stuff on my equipment that makes it seem like he's not really that loud. But he is going to be here, and I do not believe that we're going to get round 3 of Hunk versus PA announcer. Also, I don't even know if he knows that Hunk versus PA announcer is a thing. He kind of needs to, though, doesn't he? Like, he needs to know about the fact that I'm looking directly at him right now, which is right where the sun is beaming through, and I'm staring into his soul, and he has zero idea that I am doing it from out here in left field. In fact, if you are coming down to the ballpark, left field, we're in our spot, man. This is my absolute favorite spot at First Horizon Park because this grass that's directly behind me is going to start getting filled up here in just a little bit. I know some rain has come through. It's about mid-80s right now as we got into first pitch just a few minutes ago. And so it's feeling a little bit warm, but I promise you that sun right now, as I'm looking directly to my left, is about to go behind the roof here at First Horizon Park. And the very minute that happens, it is going to feel absolutely spectacular out here at the ballpark. So come on out and watch these Nashville Sounds and them taking on the Indianapolis Indians. Now, Yorkie's hopped in, and he's got a couple of questions, one of which Yorkie knows where I'm going with the reason why you need to be paying attention to Oakland, California, and we'll get to that here in just a little bit. But the first question is, will we ever see Freddie Freeman in a Braves uniform again? Yes, I do believe you will. It will most likely be 2035 or 2036 or no, and actually I said 35 and 36. No, it's not going to be that long. It'll probably be somewhere around 2027, 2028. Let's see. If this is the first year of his deal with the Dodgers, 23 will be his second year, 24 will be his third year, 25 will be his fourth year, 26 will be his fifth year, and then 27. So I could possibly see it happening in 2027 is when we're going to see it. And if you have not heard, and it blew up yesterday, and yes, the LA Dodgers and the Atlanta Braves played in a series over the weekend. It was extremely emotional for our former Atlanta Brave first baseman, Freddie Freeman. He was given his ring. It was his first game back in Atlanta since signing with the Los Angeles Dodgers. There were a ton of ceremonies for him Friday night. There were video packages. In fact, Bally Sports South and Southeast did like an hour-long presentation and special show for Freddie Freeman. So it was a lot going on involving the former first baseman of the Atlanta Braves. Then you get to the actual field, and there were packages. There was a ceremony at the very beginning. Obviously, there were ceremonies for Jacques Peterson and other former Braves that are going to be coming in, Jorge Soler and that sort of stuff. But those guys were, not to call them, Minutemen or anything like that. Those guys were brought in June and July of last season. Freddie Freeman's been with the Braves when they sucked. Freddie Freeman was with the Braves when you were at Turner Field and it had the absolute worst sod in professional baseball, and nobody wanted to play there because the grounds crew basically had stopped taking care of it because the team was so bad and they weren't making the playoffs and they were about to move out of Turner Field. Like, he went through every bit of that. So that was part of his growth as a baseball player. Heck, You want to talk about players being in better shape the older they get? Go look at Freddie Freeman's rookie picture and look at the way he looks now. Like, the man has gotten in shape compared to what he was when he first came into the Atlanta Braves organization. So this was going to be a very emotional time. There were other incidents that took place, which the Sunday one we'll get on to here in just a few minutes. But you had the ceremony, you had the comments about what the team and the city meant to him as a person, as a player, meant to his family, and a lot of that took place right before first pitch. So yes, he was extremely emotional. You expected him to be emotional. The Dodgers actually won that game 4-1, as a matter of fact. The only game they lost in the series was the Saturday contest, which nobody's talking about because nothing really happened in that game noteworthy for Freddie Freeman. You had everything that took place Friday night with the ring ceremony and everything, and you could tell how choked up he was. Then you also have what took place Sunday, which we've seen the picture. That picture is from Sunday afternoon, which was where Freddy was sitting in the dugout, his head down, and the rest of the team was standing directly on the rails into the baseball game. And a lot of people were wondering, well, if you hate the team that much, well, why on earth are you there? Like, what's going on? You're a Dodger now. You're not a Brave. You need to kind of get over it and move on. And first off, if you've ever heard Freddie Freeman talk or you've ever seen him, he's a very emotional player. Okay, we didn't really see that in the very beginning of his career because he wasn't the leader that he would eventually have to become once Chipper Jones retired. But he eventually did become that leader of the team, and he wasn't the emotional leader. That was your Ronald Acuñas, your Ozzie Albies, and those types of players. He just became that rock for the team. And the later into his career with the Atlanta Braves, and more specifically through the 2021 season, you really started seeing that emotion. He became a much better baseball player. He started having MVP-type seasons and numbers with, if he didn't have the injuries, heavens knows where some of his seasons might have went because of how well he was playing at one point in time during one season. But this was kind of this whole build-up to him becoming the player that he was. Then you get to the contract talks, and the contract talks were just a cloud over the Atlanta Braves for the entire 2021 season. Through the spring training, through the actual season themselves, and even Freddie eventually said, look, man, I'm not talking about contracts through the season. We'll handle that afterwards. Well, then everything came out that what this was really about was the Braves only wanting to give him 5 years, and Freddie Freeman was wanting that 6th year. Now, the difference between the 5th and 6th year and the amount of money that he was wanting, somewhere between $27 and $30 million. So it's not like it's just another mill, let's just throw it at me, no big deal. But that was the way that people were wanting to go, is give him that 6th year. What you have to understand about Alex Anthopoulos is he is a sabermetrics guy. He's been a sabermetrics guy. He looks at analytics, he looks at trends, he looks at everything when it comes to players, which is the reason why when the trade deadline came up last year, he tried to find different players to fill the Ronald Acuña part, whether it was Eddie Rosario, whether it was Jacques Peterson, whether it was Jorge Soler. Every one of those players were different types of baseball players. Jacques Peterson was better against right-handers. Jorge Soler was better against left-handers, so there's the plate. Jacques Peterson was a great outfielder. Eddie Rosario was a great outfielder, but that's where the defense came from. Then you looked at the legs and what Eddie Rosario could do, and there comes your speed on the base path. So basically he went that whole Billy Bean method that we've seen in Moneyball. That was, why try to get one guy when we can get 3 or 4 guys to become the one guy? And that's the way that we replace him. And he did that by using sabermetrics and analytics and everything that could possibly benefit him to do so. So going into the negotiations in the offseason, he was going to use that at the same time. I get that you were coming off of a World Series, and Freddie Freeman basically put you in there with a home run against the Brewers. And then he had the home run in the final game of the World Series, and he got the final out, and it was this culmination of his entire career in Atlanta. Like, I get it. You had David Ortiz afterwards on Fox that was, had the little cash money gun that was just spraying it at him like, bro, you're about to get paid. And he did. But the difference came down to the 6th season and the 5th season. And it came down to $27 to $30 million, and that was something the Atlanta Braves were not going to budge from. Okay, so then Freddie Freeman signs his deal with the LA Dodgers because the Braves make their final offer. Freeman signs that deal right after Matt Olson was traded from Oakland to the Atlanta Braves. And the Braves then basically gave... I said, did I say Greg Olson? That's good. That was the wrong Olson. Man. But they get Matt Olson. Matt Olson then gets the deal that Freddy was going to get, and the Braves now have their first baseman. Then you go into last week, and you go into last weekend. Freddy fires his agent on Monday. After being in Atlanta, we saw how emotional he was, and the red flags kind of started popping up of, okay, why did you fire your agent now? The first question is going to come is he going to get paid? Yes, his agent is still going to get a part of the $162 million 6-year deal that Freddie Freeman signed with the LA Dodgers. That is in the contract that the agent will get paid. Okay, so it's not like Freddie's trying to cut him out of all the money and he's not going to get his 5 or 10% or whatever the Braves, or I should say Freddie and the Dodgers agreed to. So that's not part of this. But why is it? And then Doug Gottlieb comes out with the tweet that he comes out with that Freddie Freeman found out over the weekend that the Braves made one final offer to his agent, and his agent didn't tell Freddie Freeman because he knew Freddie Freeman would accept the deal and he would not go to LA. Instead, he would go to Atlanta. So the question then comes up about truth. How true is the story? Is Freddie Freeman this person that got screwed over by his agent, and was the agent doing this maliciously because he knew he would make more money and make an extra $2 to $3 million off of this deal by getting Freddie Freeman to go to LA instead of going to Atlanta? Well, then it comes into integrity. And so over the course of the last 24, 48 hours, I've been talking to a lot of people and I've been listening to a lot of people because there's a lot of intelligent people that are trying to share the knowledge of what is happening behind the scenes. And so I was listening to one person tell me a story about the way that these deals work, and they weren't 100% sure about the way certain things work, but I'll tell you one, Mickey Ryan is a perfect example. Him and I talked for a good 15, 20 minutes earlier today about this, and he used to do real estate, and he said that as a real estate agent, your job, in fact, it's like almost law that you have got to present every single offer to your client. And if you do not, and the client finds out, then the client can then turn around and you can have legal ramifications behind this and you can get into trouble. In fact, he talked about how as a real estate agent, you could even be suspended, you could lose your license, it could be something along those lines. Now, he doesn't know about Major League Baseball agents or anything like that, but the question is going to come, did Freddie's agent tell him or not? Now, the general managers and the former general managers that have talked over the last 24 or 48 hours said that when they have dealt with agents, they've went about it in a couple of different ways. One, they did not only present a final offer, but they made sure that the agent was well aware of the fact that this was the final offer, that we were never and we will not budge any further than what we did. Yes, the story is accurate. The Braves wanted to offer him 5 years, $135 million. And then when they found out about the offer that the Dodgers were giving, then they said, okay, we can go as high as 140. Now, I'm going to throw a timeout in this. All right, we're going straight Zach Morris on this. Timeout. I get that $140 million is literally life-changing for anybody that is watching this, okay? I totally get this. I understand that $160 million is totally life-changing. I get that as well. So anybody that is watching this that just got off of work, from working in the 85 and 90-degree heat, 95-degree heat, hearing about a baseball player who was crying in the dugout because he didn't get another $27 million or he's not getting to play in the stadium that he wanted to play, yeah, I can understand why you would probably be rolling your eyes about this, okay? We're talking about in the world of baseball and the emotion that is behind Freddie Freeman and his current decision to sign with the Dodgers over the Braves, and the fact that his agent allegedly did not tell him about a final offer because he knew Freddie would take the lower deal instead of the higher deal. Now, there's a couple of questions that have popped up about this. Would Major League Baseball and the MLBPA actually approve of the deal? Because there is a part of this that the MLBPA doesn't care about your feelings. Okay, they don't care if you're happy in the city that you live in. The MLBPA doesn't care if your son or your daughter is in 5th grade and this baseball season you want to make sure that you finish it in Atlanta because they're going to be graduating in May from 8th grade and you got to make it to the actual graduation ceremony or your kid's going to be upset with you. Like, they don't care about that. Okay, they don't care that you just bought a house for $3.5 million on the lake somewhere, and you're not really in an economy right now that anybody else can purchase it. So if you move to Los Angeles, you're going to have 2 mortgages. MLBPA doesn't care anything about this. What they care about is the amount of money that you are going to get paid, because that has a ripple down effect in free agency for other first basemen that are going to be coming up over the next 2 or 3 years. And it also has to do with arbitration numbers whenever you start wanting to compare yourself to the first baseman that have been given this huge amount of money. So Freddie Freeman getting paid $25, $26, $27 million per season, whatever it is going to be, there's another first baseman sitting out there that is going to say, look, if I can put up Freddie Freeman numbers and I'm going into arbitration next year, I can argue, yes, I may not be worth $27 million in my arbitration, but I will be worth $15 to $20 million in the arbitration. And I have a better argument to say that I deserve Freddie Freeman type money. That's what this is about. MLBPA is looking out for the whole. They're not looking out for the one, okay? And so that's why there was a thought that Major League Baseball and the Players Association may not even have accepted the deal. Now, I think that they would have accepted the deal based on the fact that this has to do more with the number per season than it does the number of years. The number of years was for Freddie because he wanted to get that 6th season so that he would be a certain age and he would consider retiring after 6 more seasons of professional baseball. You know when players retire? When they start to kind of suck. Not very many players retire whenever they're on the up and up and they're still playing at the top of their level. That's the reason why we can look at ourselves and go, man, Calvin Johnson was still good when he retired. Hey, man, you had all these players. And so I'm looking at these and just going, man, these players are so good. Why did they retire? And so that is why the 6 years is such a big deal, because Anthopoulos looked at the numbers in the sabermetrics, and the sabermetrics says that a baseball player, especially a first baseman, at Freddie Freeman's age, in that year, is going to decline in production. So if he's going to decline in production, why do you want to keep him for a 6th season, pay him $27 million, and not be able to move him when you might be able to move him in the 4th season or even the 5th season if your team is struggling and you can possibly get something for him? So that's where the conversation is going to be coming into about why the Braves didn't do it. Does it suck for Freddie? Yes, it absolutely sucks for Freddie, because Freddie Freeman is one of the nicest guys in baseball. He's one of the best guys in baseball when it does come to how he is looked at as far as the way that he performs on the field and off the field. And so that is the reason why so many people are upset about it. Now, we got some comments going in right here. We got Fat Freddy. Swag Buck just hopped in. He says that I'm loving the baseball content. Man, I appreciate that. Shoot us a follow, like us, whatever you need to do if you're on YouTube. And I am at the moment tweeting out another link that you can go to as well. And the other question that is going to pop up, and that's the reason why I'm asking, is how do you feel about the Freddie Freeman situation? Now, we got some questions about this because I actually had a lady that called into 3HL and she asked me this question off the air, and this is a major part of the whole deal. Can the Atlanta Braves get Freddie Freeman back? That is going to be the question, okay? Can they get Freddie Freeman back? Well, the simple answer is no. And there's many reasons for this. Now, the first reason is going to be the fact that you cannot void a contract in Major League Baseball unless they are under and you have certain circumstances that will allow you to get out of your deal. Majority of these reasons actually come down to the team and not so much the player. The main rule and the biggest rule that gets talked about the most is going to be the rule that involves the team saying that the baseball player is not staying in the proper physical condition and he is no longer to perform for the team because he is basically out of shape. That is going to be the clause in the contract that gets talked about the most, because that rule basically means that if Freddie Freeman at some point in time decided that he just wanted to stop doing anything, just like, all right, I'm just going to go sit on the couch. I'm going to argue. I'm not going to play baseball. I'm not going to play for the Dodgers. I'm not going to do any of this, and I'm just going to eat, spend time with my son, and I'm going to chill out. Now, if you get into this situation where, you kind of have to go and talk to somebody, and you're like, man, look, that uniform just isn't fitting you anymore. You don't have the speed that you normally do. You don't have the power that you normally do. You need to lose weight. And Freddie Freeman was going to make that argument, and that's the route that he went so that he could get out of the contract. Then yes, the team could actually terminate the contract in that way. But how does that benefit Freddie Freeman? The next the next possibility of the way a Major League Baseball contract can be voided is if Major League Baseball terminates the contract themselves. So an example that you could possibly look at, and one that is talked about a lot with contracts, and it's actually, I believe, in the verbiage, it says if a player neglects, refuses, or fails to follow the contract's personal conduct, sportsmanship rules, the team can then terminate the contract itself. That's one way. The other way that we're talking about now is if a player decides to breach the rules of the contract and neglects, refuses, or fails to cooperate with the team, then he can absolutely, in Major League Baseball, can absolutely terminate the contract. But again, where does this benefit Freddie Freeman? So if Freddie Freeman did what we always joke about with players and said, hey, take your ball and go home, man. Just take your ball, go to the house, and let's not even think about you playing baseball anymore. If Freddie Freeman chose to do that, then yes, Major League Baseball and the Los Angeles Dodgers could terminate the contract. The problem of this is what we come down to as a classic catch-22 situation, where Freddie Freeman, if he were to go this route, would be basically obligated to sign with the Atlanta Braves and nobody else, because who is going to offer a contract to Freddie Freeman if and when Freddie Freeman were to become a free agent because his contract was terminated? If he was unwilling to perform, he was unwilling to cooperate. That's a bad teammate. Nobody in Major League Baseball in 2022 wants to go down that route. And if you're a bad teammate, you're not cooperating, you're out of shape, if you're any of the scenarios that Major League Baseball puts into their Major League Baseball contracts, then you're not going to be wanted by anybody, including the Atlanta Braves. So that doesn't benefit you at all. All right, will the Atlanta Braves want to trade for Freddie Freeman? Well, yeah, if they want to take on that contract. Right now, the only way the Atlanta Braves would be trading for Freddie Freeman is if they were going to add him as a DH, because you have a first baseman. Now, if you wanted to possibly do a platoon situation where in a 4-game series, Freddie plays 2 games at first base, Matt Olson plays 2 games at first base, and you kind of go back and forth, all right, that's a little bit different, and that's a theory. One DHs, then the other DHs, and all this. The problem is you don't need that. So then we come into the biggest problem, and the biggest part of this whole thing that people are just totally wanting to forget, and they go, well, why do you want Matt Olson over Freddie Freeman? Because Matt Olson is playing better than Freddie Freeman right now. There's your biggest thing. Matt Olson, when he was with an Oakland A, was better than Freddie Freeman at times. The problem is he was playing in a horrific ballpark, O.co, which is basically just this humongous field, and you couldn't get any power right now. That's where this all comes down to it. So yes, if you put their stats side by side, Freddie Freeman has scored more runs, and he has about 15 more hits than what Matt Olson does. Matt Olson has more doubles than what Freddie Freeman does, as well as more home runs. They're almost very similar in RBIs. Matt Olson has also been more patient at the plate. He's got 43 walks, where Freddie Freeman has 38 walks. So you can go down to all of this stuff and start comparing. Freddie Freeman has been a better hitter as far as contact-wise. Batting average, on-base percentage is roughly the same. Slugging percentage is roughly the same. And on-base plus slugging percentage is all the same. So OB or OPS, that's what on-base plus slugging stands for whenever you see that during a baseball game. The part about this that is the biggest kicker is the fact that Matt Olson isn't doing a bad job. Like, why are people wanting Freddie Freeman back when you arguably have a better version of Freddie Freeman in your lineup? Freddie Freeman at the moment is being protected in the lineup by a lot of great all-stars. The Braves don't have those all-stars. They just don't. They don't have your Mookie Betts. They don't have some of those players. But they do have an Ozzie Albies. They do have a Ronald Acuna Jr. They do have a Marcell Ozuna. They do have Michael Harris. They do have all of those players. Like, there is a batting lineup around Matt Olson that is solid. That's the reason why they're just now 3 games back of the New York Mets. That's the reason why they have won as many games as they have in the month of June. That's the reason for every bit of this. This is not a bad baseball team, and Matt Olson is not a bad baseball player. Now, I get right now the Braves and the Phillies are actually playing. It's the final game of that series, and the Phillies are absolutely destroying the Braves. Right now, it's going into the 8th inning, and the Phillies are up 12-4. The Braves took 2 of 3. They're about to go to Cincinnati, and then they're going to finish that game right there. Okay? For me, the person that's getting disrespected the most in this is Matt Olson, because while everybody's been talking about Freddie Freeman, Matt Olson has went out and just taken over the record books for doubles in the month of June by an Atlanta Brave. Matt Olson has put balls out of the ballpark. Matt Olson is doing exactly what the Braves are asking him to do. Why do you want to trade for him? I get the emotional part. I get the part about how fans love Freddie Freeman. I understand that. But from an analytic standpoint, Matt Olson is younger, which is the reason why he got the extra years on his deal. And he is a better baseball player, not by much, than what Freddie Freeman is. And he's 2 years younger. Matt Olson legitimately, through 162 games, can put up MVP-type numbers, which is what Freddie Freeman was doing. That's not the Braves' biggest point right now that they're needing to figure out. That's not their biggest hole. They need help. Obviously, second base with Ozzie Albies being out is a place where you need to kind of look at to possibly add to it. You don't need help at third base. Michael Harris is doing fantastic in center field. You have these players when Acuna does come back. You have that. You don't even have a catcher situation anymore because you have 2 different catchers, Wilson Contreras as well as Travis d'Arnaud, that are playing fantastically and complementing each other. The starting pitching may be better. Ian Anderson struggling, which is what happened today, but those aren't your needs for the Atlanta Braves. First baseman is not a need. This would be a lot different if the Braves were playing a double-A first baseman and Freddie Freeman was out having an amazing year and the Braves just decided they saved money and they never spent it. That would be a different situation. Steven hops in on the chat. He says Freeman will go back to Atlanta to retire. I 100% agree with you. He will. This will be a Brian McCann situation. It might be a year or 2. It might be something along those lines that towards the 5th or 6th year of that contract with Freddie Freeman, the Braves might try to trade for him depending on a need that they may have, specifically at the DH position, and try to get the Dodgers to take up majority of that contract. That could be something that would absolutely take place because, yes, he does want to be a Brave. You will be seeing him as a Brave at some point in time. Now, it doesn't mean that right now that is going to happen. I understand the emotion of it, okay? But when the Atlanta Braves have done what they have done, and Matt Olson has done what he has done during this period of time where everybody is talking about Freddie Freeman, and I'm not just talking about the baseball world, the entire sports world. was talking about Freddie Freeman before the UCLA and USC stuff hit about 1 o'clock this afternoon. It was nothing but Freddie Freeman talk. Not because it's the team here locally, Major League Baseball-wise, but because he's also an LA Dodger, which means this thing has been blown up to a bigger stage. If Freddie Freeman would have went to Pittsburgh, no offense, Indians, if they would have went to Pittsburgh, nobody would have been talking about this as much as they had. If he would have went to Kansas City, if he would have went to Oakland, if he would have went to any of those cities, this would not be talked about as much because the Dodgers move the needle. Now, speaking of Oakland, here's where the catch-22 is going to be catching you one more time, because I don't know why this is. But every single week when we sit down and we go, okay, what are we going to talk about on the strike zone? You always go, all right, well, we do this, we do that, we'll talk about this, we'll talk about this. And then every single time something pops up and you got, great. This will never go away. I'll tell you what I'm talking about in just a second. Make sure that you follow the Strike Zone on Twitter. Mainly follow me at Joe Hunk. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at 1045 The Zone. Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, all of those places that you can watch all of the shows on the 1045 The Zone platform, not just the Strike Zone. We have, obviously, you have Lucas and you have Will doing an amazing job talking about the Tennessee Vols. The Gamer Zone is going to be coming back in a few weeks. The Madden beta test is out. I've been playing that a little bit. I swear to Heavenly Father, the Madden people need to start changing the facade around the field for the Tennessee Titans, because you had the facade from like 4 years ago and it still looks bad. You need to change it. But the Gamer Zone is going to be coming back, so make sure that you are following us there, because you can hop in on the Gamer Zone. We get going back and we get going with that again coming up in the next few weeks with preseason. Michael hops in and says the MLB is not the NBA. Superstars just can't leave on a dime. And that's the part about this when it comes to the guarantee contract. When Freddie Freeman signed a 6-year deal with the Los Angeles Dodgers, he's there for 6 years until they trade him. There is no voiding of the contract. There is no mutual agreements of the contract where he can say, all right, I'm done. I'm getting rid of this. I'll pay you this amount of money and I'm done. There's none of that. He is there for 6 years. Unless the LA Dodgers trade him. And I understand Braves fans, well, are we going to get him back? We're going to get him back? Yes. At some point in time, you will. It'll be wear the number 5 for the last 2 years, and then when he retires, then Braves fans are going to see that number 5 go up beside all the other numbers when he's retired. That is what's going to happen with Freddie Freeman. This is not going to be something that happens in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Blake asks, can the Braves repeat a world championship season like last year with the current pitching rotation? Well, the easy answer is going to be, you want to say yes. You want to say that. But they're going to need to add some pieces. In fact, there's one player that I don't know if anybody has talked about, and I don't believe anybody even knows what's going on with him, including myself, because we haven't heard about it for a while. But a part of this also comes down to one player that is not on the roster right now, that hasn't been on the roster for a few months, heck, almost a full year. And I'm talking about Mike Soroka.
The more we can tap into our
you stop talking right now, iShares. I'm talking about Mike Soroka. Because with Mike Soroka, he's been out of this rotation for over a year now. You have Spencer Strider, who at times he can pitch very well. He's got great velocity. His future may be more as a bullpen role. Charlie Morton is Charlie Morton. Again, you didn't get Charlie Morton for the regular season. You got him for the postseason, which we all saw how great he was in the postseason. Max Fried is being Max Fried. Kyle Wright is pitching very well right now. He pitched well last night again. Ian Anderson is going to be the question mark in this, because Ian Anderson is struggling. He struggled again today. And he's the one that, honestly, if you're looking at potential trade bait, not saying Ian Anderson's it, either you look at possibly moving him or you send him down to Gwinnett and you start trying to figure out ways that he could get right. But Mike Soroka is going to be the key. Alex Anthopoulos said that basically this time period, the next week or two, could be a possibility of seeing when Mike Soroka could actually start pitching ball games. In fact, Soroka said that right now he's been throwing bullpen sessions, but he still is not there. Eventually, at some point in time, they actually wanted him back before the All-Star break, or I should say after the All-Star break. That's not happening right now because he hasn't even started pitching yet for Gwinnett or anything along those lines. So he's got to get better and he's got to get healthy so that he can even get back on a mound in Gwinnett or Mississippi or anywhere else you want to look at. Logan says Freeman will mostly serve as a DH and split time at first base if he goes back to Atlanta when he's 36 or 37. Exactly. That's the benefit of the DH. That's the biggest benefit of the DH is now these leagues have decided that, look, now that we have the exact same rules, now the National League can start looking at the trade deadline the exact same way the American League can. And you can start looking for players that are so good hitting but are horrible in the outfield, Marcell Ozuna at some point in time, that you say, look, we need to use you as a DH. That's what Freddie Freeman is. Again, locker room, amazing. On the field, Gold Glover. We know this. But he's not going to be coming back to Atlanta unless this becomes a situation that is so big and so bad that Major League Baseball has to intervene and they have to terminate the contract, which is not going to do. Because, again, this is not the NBA. And at the same time, if Freddie Freeman were to want to come back to Atlanta, Atlanta's not paying him the money that they were offering him before they traded for Matt Olson. He's not getting $160 million. He's not getting $135 million. He's not getting $140 million. He's going to be a Dodger, and he's going to be a Dodger until the contract is up or they trade him. Logan, I appreciate it. Now comes the part where you start to ask yourself, why does this continue to get brought up? Well, the main reason has to be because it continues to get into the news, okay? And it's something that is going to continue to get into the news and become news because of the ripple down effect that it will happen. It's that whole, and we obviously, the theory of the ripple effect, you throw the rock in the water, it's not that first ripple, it's all the ones after it because of that first ripple and because of the rock going in. I told you need to pay attention to Oakland, California. Now, why is that? Well, because Oakland, California had a vote earlier today about a piece of land that right now is deemed for port use only. Now, for people that don't know, Butterfly Effect, that's another great example. Michael, exactly. By the way, if you've never seen Butterfly Effect, go watch it. It's actually one of Ashton Kutcher's best movies when he's not acting like a complete moron. It's hilarious. And actually, that's the wrong term to use. It's amazing. It's not hilarious. There are funny parts in it. Butterfly Effect is an amazing, amazing movie. And I believe it's Amy Smart that is in that with Ashton Kutcher, and it is a fantastic film. But Oakland, California, up for a vote. There's a piece of land that came up for vote today because at the moment it is deemed for port use first. Oakland, obviously just like San Francisco, part of the Bay Area, they are wanting that land for use so that they can build whatever they need for ships that are bringing stuff onto shore so that they can get it off. It's part of the Port Authority there. Now, why does this have any sort of ripple effect that has anything to do with city of Nashville, the Nashville Sounds, the state of Tennessee, anywhere? Well, it's because of what Major League Baseball did yesterday. Major League Baseball made an announcement that they would waive the moving fee if the Oakland A's moved from Oakland to Las Vegas. So what does that mean? Right now, to move a baseball team, it costs the exact same amount to move a baseball team as it does to get a brand new franchise, meaning a 31st or 32nd team, which is what Rob Manfred talked about with ESPN yesterday. That was part of what was getting discussed, is if Oakland wanted to move to Las Vegas, owners, the city, anybody that wanted to would have to pay Major League Baseball $1 billion. That moving fee would then get distributed to the other 29 owners, which means they get a part of this, which is why they actually agree to the money getting brought in the first place to allow a team to move. Because if you're getting a deal, and I will do the math as I'm speaking right now, okay? If you're talking about a deal for just say $1 billion, there's 2 zeros, there's 3 more, there's $10 million. Let's go with one more right there. $1 million divided by 29 would be, each team would receive $35 million if the Oakland A's would move to Las Vegas and pay the $1 billion moving fee that Major League Baseball has put on it for them to want to move. Major League Baseball said that they would waive this amount. So basically, if Oakland and the A's wanted to move, because they had done everything they possibly could, they would basically be able to walk out of Oakland and O.co for free. They could just hop in the car, hit the interstate, and take every single thing to Las Vegas. Today, and this is no coincidence, by the way, the city of Oakland voted on the piece of land that the Oakland A's are wanting to make their stadium purchase for and build at. Just about 2 hours ago, the vote took place and the city approved to change it to port use, to open use, where the Oakland A's could purchase the land and make that into their next stadium. Now, does that mean that the Oakland A's have a new baseball stadium they're going to be able to break ground in the next 3 months? No, that does not mean that. Remember, just like with the city of Nashville and with the Tennessee Titans, this is just the next step. Now, what was going to come into question was going to be if Oakland voted no on this earlier today and basically called Major League Baseball's bluff. Because Major League Baseball, there is no way on earth that 29 other owners were going to agree to let the Oakland A's leave Oakland and them not get any sort of money from the move. Do you think that multimillionaires, whether it's majority or minority owners, would actually agree to forego $34 million and be like, all right, as long as they can be happy in Las Vegas, then that's all that really matters? No, there's no chance on earth that that was actually going to happen. So now that's the reason why I was very curious to be paying attention to this, because in the court system, and you know this with if you ever talk to attorneys or laws or anything like that, there's always this thing. You ever see it in the movies? And I use a movie reference because I don't have many lawyer friends, but I know what this is about. Is they go, okay, we've got to find a case that this has happened it's so similar that we can say this happened, this judge ruled this way. That means that you have to rule this way because there's a precedent that has been set. That was why this was such a big deal. Because if Major League Baseball agreed to allow the Oakland A's to move from Oakland to Las Vegas for free, they'd have to let other teams move for free. Because if they didn't, those teams could then sue Major League Baseball for the exact same reason. You have to get the precedent. Michael hops in and says the exact same thing. That's right. You have to get the precedent. So if there is a precedent that was set and Major League Baseball was said, hey, look, Vegas, you can have your team. Matter of fact, Oakland A's, you guys can move there for free. We're not even going to have to make you pay a dime to move from Oakland to Las Vegas. If that would have happened, and it still could, because this was just the next step to seeing if Oakland will approve a brand new baseball stadium for the A's, then they would have to do the exact same thing for the Tampa Bay Rays, which is all the majority owner for the Tampa Bay Rays wants. He seriously would love to move, okay? He's doing everything imaginable to move, okay? That's the reason why the city of Nashville gets brought into this for two separate reasons. Now, before I get into those reasons, let's go to the chat. Steven says, Oakland is losing every sport. NBA moved to San Francisco. NFL moved to Las Vegas. Now Major League Baseball. I feel like the Oakland A's are going to stay in Oakland. I really feel like that. And I think that that is going to be the case, that they're going to stay in Oakland just because the city cannot allow that much to happen to it that would hurt it being a quote-unquote major city. Look at the things that have happened to the city of Nashville that has turned it into a professional city. Look, before 1998, this was a college city. This was a music town. Yes, the Nashville Sounds were here, but that was minor league baseball. Nobody looked at this as a professional sports city. Nobody even looked at this for an SEC tournament city until Bridgestone was built. So everything has to grow. Well, if some cities are growing, then others are getting smaller. Look at the state that I'm from, the city of Birmingham. The population inside the city limits of Birmingham has shrunk dramatically. It's because everybody's moving out of Birmingham and moving out of Jefferson County. They're going to Shelby County. They're going to all the counties that surround Birmingham, and they're just saying, all right, well, I'll just drive in because there's no way on earth I'm going to be living in this county because this county and this city is horrific. Same thing goes for Oakland. People are moving out of Oakland left and right because of the things and the way that Oakland is being presented as a city and the things that have happened to it in the past. And the fact that the city itself doesn't care one bit about trying to grow into a sports market because, again, if they really want to, there's a subway directly beside O.co that will take you right to AT&T Park. That will take you, well, it's not AT&T Park anymore, but Oracle Park. It'll take you directly to the new arena. Like they could go over anytime that they wanted to. They've lost the Raiders multiple times. They just lost the Golden State Warriors, but Golden State is still a Bay Area team. Oakland's a dying city. Now, they've approved this because I think that even they understand that they don't want to lose the Oakland A's. As bad of a team as it has been, and the fact that they're poor and their owner doesn't want to spend any money, which he does have money, but he just doesn't want to spend it, they don't want to lose the team altogether because that is a horrific look on the city, and they probably would never get a team back. Look at the way the Montreal Expos have been. So that's the reason why you needed to pay attention to this. Now, again, what does it have to do with Nashville? Well, if the A's would have got that approval, then Tampa would now have an out that they could legitimately announce that they're going to leave Tampa for the exact same amount of money, and they can just bolt to whatever city they want to. Then comes what Rob Manfred said just a couple of days ago in the article with ESPN, where he did say he would like for Major League Baseball to eventually be at 32 teams. Well, even if that is expansion, regardless, you now have two avenues if you're a Major League Baseball team, or if you're a city of Nashville and you're wanting a Major League Baseball team. And again, this can work with the Nashville Sounds. We talked about that previously. You can go back to on our podcast and listen to that with the Strike Zone podcast, and you can hear how both can work together because there are multiple cities that have a Major League Baseball team and a AAA baseball team or a AA baseball team, and they do work together when it comes to being able to both share, have revenue, profit, and be able to bring in fans. Because again, a city like Nashville, you think 10,000 fans here are going to take away from 40,000 fans at a Major League Baseball stadium? You think there's 50,000 people that don't want to go see one or the other? They can work together. But Rob Manfred did say, I would like to go to 32 teams. He did not give a time frame. He did not say when. Well, if you're looking at the Tampa Bay Rays and the Oakland A's possibly wanting to move, there's 4 cities that are getting connected to Major League Baseball for the future. On the West Coast, that is going to be Las Vegas and Portland. Those 2 cities are getting connected to it right there. On the East Coast, it's Montreal and it's Nashville. So if you have 2 teams that are looking to move and you have Rob Manfred that is saying that he wants to grow 2 teams, that's 4, which means every city could be happy. If that does happen, and this is a total rabbit hole of a conversation, and the idea is going to be, well, what's going to happen? I'll get to that in just a second. Going back to our chat that we've got right now, Michael says Major League Baseball is going to Vegas. I think it's going to be a foregone conclusion whether it's the A's moving or expansion. I totally agree with you. I think that Major League Baseball is wanting to add one team to the American League, one team to the National League. But part of the reason of that has to do with the fact that if you open up your app tomorrow afternoon, FanDuel, use that promo code HUNK. If you opened up your app and you looked at Major League Baseball, there is every single week there is now an interleague game, an American League team and a National League team playing each other because both leagues have 15 teams. And so one of those teams from both leagues have to be playing each other when the other teams are playing their National League or American League opponents. You want that to be balanced. Major League Baseball is also going to be going to a balanced schedule coming up in the near future because now it's not 1974 and the National League has the DH, so that means the entire league is balanced when it comes to American and National League teams and everybody's playing under the same rules. So now you can have more National League and American League teams playing each other a lot more. So then what does that mean? That means, in theory, my theory, 100% my theory, that what's going to happen is if Nashville gets a Major League Baseball team, you're going to see changing in the divisions. Now, Steven says we can't have an MLB team in Nashville. We can't have Buck screaming at them, or he can't stand in the concession line. Look, Buck wants a WNBA team, okay? Nothing against the WNBA because they can bring 9,000 to 10,000 fans to Bridgestone in a basketball game. That would be awesome. That's still a third to a fourth of what a Major League Baseball stadium can hold. You're going to want an outdoor venue over an indoor venue to be filled any day of the week. It's like that's again. You look at Geodis and you look at what the Nashville SC is doing. More fans can go to that than they will be in Bridgestone. It's more beneficial to have a soccer team here than it would be to have a WNBA basketball team. I actually think that Nashville's going to get both. That's me personally. But that's why you look at the Major League Baseball route. And look, right now, you can't – matter of fact, you can see this. Look at where I'm pointing right there because, by the way, legally I can't show a lot of the field because minor league baseball will get on to me, so that's the reason why we're angled the way that we are. Look at how packed the bandbox is right now. It's like this every single Thursday. This joint is packed. You think that's changing because a Major League Baseball team comes to town? No, it's not changing at all. That place is still going to be packed. Where I'm sitting at right now in left field, all of these benches are packed. You have fans up in every single suite. You have fans on every single terrace that's up here at the Sounds. That's not changing. The Sounds are one of the best teams in minor league baseball. That's not changing. Adding a Major League Baseball team brings the fandom here, and it brings it even better. Now, what's going to be coming in is eventually the Sounds would then become an affiliate of whatever team does come to there. But I talked about the divisions. We're going to wrap up with this, and I appreciate everybody hopping in and watching tonight. But what will happen if the Nashville city itself gets a minor league or a Major League Baseball team? Here's what's going to happen. Regardless as to if it's the Rays or not, that team is going to get put into the Central Division. Reason being, Nashville, 4 to 5 hours away from Cincinnati, 4 to 5 hours away from St. Louis. It's a natural fit, okay? Most likely, you would see the Pittsburgh Pirates move over to the NL East. That would be your balancing, okay? Now, that would only happen if Montreal gets a Major League Baseball team, because if Montreal does not get a Major League Baseball team, this is not going to happen, and whatever team Nashville gets would stay in the AL East. If Montreal gets a Major League Baseball team, they would be going to the AL East. If you look at a map, Tampa, not really that close for the city of Tampa to be going to New York, Boston, Baltimore. Not that close. That's the reason why Montreal being in this, if they expanded to Montreal or they expanded to Nashville and Montreal got the Tampa Bay Rays, whichever way we go about it, the NL Central makes the most sense because of geographically how close you are to the Reds, the Cardinals, the Cubs, and those types of teams. That's the reason why the NL Central makes the most fit in the Pittsburgh Pirates sliding over. You look to the AL West, same thing would kind of take place. If a new team comes to Portland or a new team goes to Las Vegas, obviously you get that team being put into the AL West, and either the Houston Astros or the Texas Rangers would then move to the AL Central. And if you're a Texas Rangers fan and you have watched enough Texas Rangers and Houston Astros baseball, Brent knows exactly what I'm talking about. You're tired of a 9 o'clock first pitch for a road game in the division. Playing them in the Central gets them at least in their own time zone, and it makes a lot more sense for that way. That's just my opinion. But again, Montreal and Portland would play a humongous key to this. If the A's and the Rays were to just move to Vegas and to Nashville, then they're going to be staying in their divisions, AL West, AL East, and that's no way to do it. But if Montreal and Portland were to come into this, Portland goes to the West, either the Astros or the Rangers go to the Central, the Rays go to the NL East, Montreal goes to the AL East. That would be our Rays go to the NL Central, Montreal goes to the AL East. That's just my belief. By the way, every single week I love to showcase at least one person that is a Tennessee native and how well that they played in either a series of games or just a game this week. White Light, I appreciate it. Logan says he always heard the Sounds would relocate if Nashville got a major league club. Never knew how official that was. I doubt that. And I doubt it because, one, I'm sitting here and I see how many fans are at a Nashville Sounds baseball game right now and how fan-friendly they are, and how in 2022 you do have multiple cities. Atlanta is one of them. Houston is one of them. You also have Seattle is another major city. Minnesota and Minneapolis, St. Paul. They're another city that have both a AAA as well as a Major League Baseball team in them. But again, with every one of those scenarios, the AAA team is also the affiliate of the Major League Baseball team. So in Seattle, the team in Tacoma is actually the affiliate of the Mariners. In Houston, I believe it's Round Rock is actually the affiliate of the Houston Astros. In Atlanta, we all know Gwinnett and the Atlanta Braves. In fact, that stadium is only 30 miles away from each other, Gwinnett and Truist Park. So that's a player can legitimately get to Truist Park in 30 minutes. And then you can also look at your New York. St. Paul is the exact same way, where St. Paul and Minneapolis are the exact same. So those are the different ways that this could work. And I say this again as somebody that is sitting in First Horizon Park, because the Nashville Sounds have invited me. This could work, and this is always going to be a conversation. And you begin to look at all the different effects, and Nashville continues to get brought up in this. The relocation fee being waived was a 100% bluff, because then it would set precedent for other teams to move without that. And I do not believe Major League Baseball owners were going to be okay giving up $34.5 million a piece so that a team can move cities. I just doubt that's going to happen. But the person that I did want to highlight before we get off of here tonight and we go watch the rest of this baseball game, Brian Reynolds, Brentwood High School, Vanderbilt alum, yesterday against the Nationals, 3 for 4, 3 bombs. His talent is getting wasted in Pittsburgh. Again, sorry, Indians. His talent is getting wasted in Pittsburgh, and hopefully one day he does get to join a much better baseball team, because he is a fantastic player for the Pirates. Make sure that you follow us on Twitter, me specifically at Joe Hunk. I appreciate everybody that did hop in and watch tonight. Make sure that you go and follow 104.5 The Zone. If you happen to miss any of this, go to wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure that you give us a like, give us a follow, get subscribed, because the very moment that this goes live, you will get that notification. Being able to listen to it, whether you're driving in the car, getting ready in the morning, or wherever it is. I appreciate everybody every single night that watches and gets in on those comments. Thank you so much. We will talk to you next Thursday night, 7 o'clock, right back here at First Horizon Park. Sounds are going to be on a road trip. So it means most likely I'm going to get to hang out in the bandbox. So we'll see how that goes. You have a great rest of your week. I'll see you tomorrow on 3HL. Have an amazing Independence Day. Do not forget what that day is for, as well as the fact that on July 3rd, here's the Fireworks Spectacular. You have a great night. We will talk to you next Thursday night at 7 o'clock.